Hello and welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I really do appreciate it. Once again, we will be doing the predictions for the Premier League for this weekend's action. The international break is currently taking place as of recording, but it's almost over. Tuesday night is the last set of games, and then we'll be back into the motion of the Premier League, and then that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be wall-to-wall action until March, when the next international break takes place. So that's going to be really exciting to have so much football, and by then we'll probably know who's going to win the league, who's probably going to go down, and things like that. So this next batch of fixtures is going to be so massive before the next international break. It's going to define the season, so it's a massive time, and it's really good because I really enjoy the Christmas period in particular. There's so much football on, and it's going to be really exciting. So the first game we're going to look at is West Ham versus Tottenham. So Tottenham haven't had the best of starts. They're in 14th. West Ham are struggling as well. They're in 16th. But the two London teams is a London derby, so it's going to be a very feisty affair, I would imagine. Last 5 games for both sides, it's bad reading for West Ham. West Ham lost 2-1 to Crystal Palace, lost 2-0 to Everton, drew 1-1 with Sheffield United, a 3-2 defeat to Newcastle United, and a 3-0 hammering really by Burnley away from home for the Hammers. Tottenham's last 5 games are as follows: a 5-0 win over Red Star Belgrade, a 2-1 defeat to Liverpool, a 1-1 draw with Everton, a 4-0 win over Red Star Belgrade, and a 1-1 draw with Sheffield United, who are having a really good season, Sheffield United. So that means Tottenham are in 14th and West Ham are in 16th. So it could go either way, this one, because West Ham are at home. But I've said before on the channel that I think Pellegrini will be sacked in the near future. I don't think he's the right man anymore, and I think they will get rid of him and they'll go with somebody else. But I think Tottenham will win this game, and I think it could be then the end of the road for West Ham manager Manuel Pellegrini. I'm going to go for a win for Tottenham in this game, and I'm going to go 2-0 to Spurs. So that's a 12:30 kickoff. I would have covered that game on live on my channel and doing a watch long, but fortunately, or fortunately for me, my mum is coming down to see me as we live away from her now, as my girlfriend's currently at university. The first 3 o'clock game is Southampton going to the Emirates to take on Arsenal. Arsenal are in 6th place, level on points with Sheffield United, who are in 5th place, which is absolutely crazy. Southampton are in 19th place and have not won in the last 5 Premier League fixtures. So in the last 5 games for both sides, Arsenal's last 5 games: a 2-2 draw with Crystal Palace, a 5-5 draw with Liverpool going out on penalties, of course, a 1-1 draw with Wolves, a 1-1 draw with Guimaraes, and a 2-0 defeat to Leicester before the last international break, of course. Southampton's last 5 games are as follows: a 1-1 draw with the Wolves, a 9-0 defeat to Leicester City, that was absolutely crazy result, a 3-1 defeat to Man City in the EFL Cup, a 2-1 defeat to Manchester City in the Premier League, and a 2-1 defeat to Everton, who are also struggling this season. It's been really poor. I have a feeling that Southampton in the next few weeks have Watford and Norwich at home. So if they can get absolutely hammered by Arsenal in this game, then they could go on and pick up some points for Ralph Hasenhüttl to make his position a little bit more safe. However, they could decide with those games coming up to get rid of Hasenhüttl and go with another manager who could have a really good winning start to their tenure as manager of Southampton. Personally, I stick with Hasenhüttl for now, but they don't want to leave it too long like they did with Maurizio Pellegrino, because he was there for ages and they almost ended up getting relegated. Mark Hughes came in and saved them, so they don't want to do that, but I would give him more time. I'm going to go for an Arsenal win here. I'm going to go 3-0 to the Gunners. I think Gunners will hammer Southampton. Southampton are so poor at the moment. But like I say, I would keep with Hasenhüttl for now, at least until the end of next month. Next game is Bournemouth versus Wolves. So Wolves started the season quite struggling. Now they're in 8th place, so they've done fairly well in recent weeks. They're in 8th. Bournemouth are in 9th place, both on 16 points, level with Manchester United, which isn't too bad at all. Manchester United aren't exactly having the greatest season. Last 5 games. Wolves will start with a 1-1 draw with Newcastle, a 2-1 defeat to Villa in the Carabao Cup, a 1-0 draw with Arsenal, a 1-0 win over Bratislava, Slovan Bratislava that is, and a 2-1 win over Aston Villa last time out. Last 5 games for Bournemouth, it is pretty bad reading for Bournemouth if I'm being honest. A 1-0 defeat to Arsenal, a 0-0 draw with Norwich, a 0-0 draw with Watford, a 1-0 win over Manchester United, and a 2-1 defeat to Newcastle United. So overall, it's not been too good for Bournemouth. Obviously, they're at home. Their home form is pretty average. They're in 12th for home form with 9 points picked up, 2 wins, 3 draws and 1 defeat, so that's not too bad. Wolves away form is 6th with 1 win, 4 draws and just 1 defeat, so that's not too bad at all. Going by those stats, I'm going to go for a draw here. I'm going to go 1 apiece. I think that's a fair result. To be fair, that's what I'm going to go with, a 1-1 draw. Next game, we have Brighton versus Leicester. Leicester on absolute fire. They're in 2nd place at the moment after Manchester City lost to Liverpool in the last game before the international break. Brighton are in 11th place. I think they'd be relatively pleased with how things are going so far under Graham Potter. I thought Brighton would go down. I predicted them to go down, but I'm really glad to see Graham Potter doing a really good job at Brighton and Hove Albion. Last 5 games for both sides. We'll start with Brighton. Brighton a 3-0 win over Tottenham. What a great win that was. A 2-1 defeat to Aston Villa. That was a sending off for Aaron Moy in that game. Quite early on, that was in the first half. So they did have a long time without 11 men on pitch, and a late goal. I think it was Matt Targett who scored in that one. A 3-2 win over Everton, a 2-0 win over Norwich, and then a 3-1 defeat to Manchester United. Leicester's 5 games are as follows: a win 2-1 over Burnley, a 9-0 win over Southampton, a 3-1 win over Burton in the Carabao Cup, a 2-0 win over Palace, and then a 2-0 win over Arsenal. They're on absolute fire, and if they were to win the league, it would be an amazing story. It'd be lovely to see Leicester win the league after what happened last season. It would be absolutely amazing, but I don't think they will. I think if Liverpool don't win the league, then they'll never win the league again, because they're so far in front and it's so early on. So I think they'll definitely win the league, but it'd be lovely to see Leicester win the league as well. So I'm going to go for a Leicester win. Leicester are on fire at the moment. Their last defeat came at Anfield on the 5th of October, so over a month ago, and that is doing really well. They're absolutely flying, and I'm so pleased to see Brendan Rodgers doing well. He's doing a good job as well. They're in front of Chelsea, in front of Manchester City, in front of Arsenal, in front of Manchester United, and they're way in front of Tottenham. I'm going to go 2-0 to Leicester, another 2-0 victory for them. Next, we have Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. Crystal Palace are in 12th place after 3 defeats in 4. Liverpool are, of course, top of the league with 34 points from 36 available. Absolutely crazy stats from Liverpool. They're on fire. So, last 5 games for each side. Liverpool are as follows: a 2-1 win over Spurs, a 5-5 draw with Arsenal, winning on penalties in the EFL Cup, a 2-1 win over Aston Villa, that was a late goal, a 2-1 win over Genk at home in the Champions League, and a 3-1 win over the champions Manchester City. Last 5 games for Crystal Palace: a 2-1 win over West Ham, a 2-0 defeat to Man City, a 2-2 draw with Arsenal, a 2-0 defeat to Leicester, and then a 2-0 defeat to Chelsea. So in their last 4 games, they haven't won. But looking at the sides they faced, they've faced City, they faced Arsenal, they faced Leicester, and they faced Chelsea. Obviously, 3 of those are in the top 4, and then Arsenal have good home form usually. So it's been hard for them the last few weeks. And obviously, Liverpool is a really tough game as well. I can only see one winner in this game, and that's going to be Liverpool. And I think Liverpool are going to unfortunately run away with the title, and there's going to be no title race this season. I think it'll be 2-1 to Liverpool in that one. Everton versus Norwich. The last 5 games for both. We'll start off with their positions. Norwich are bottom, and I think that's where they're going to stay. To be honest, they picked up 7 points so far this season. Everton are in 15th place with 14 points picked up so far this season. The last 5 games are as follows: Norwich's last 5, a 5-1 defeat to Aston Villa at home, a 0-0 draw with Bournemouth, a 3-1 defeat to Manchester United, a 2-0 defeat to Brighton, and a 2-0 defeat to Watford. Last 5 for Everton: a 2-0 victory over West Ham, a 3-2 defeat to Brighton, a 2-0 win over Watford, a 1-0 draw with Spurs, and a 2-1 win over Southampton. That was a really big 3 points, because I think if they lost that, they could have gone into the relegation zone. But that didn't happen for Everton. They won the game. So I'm going to go for an Everton win here. I think Norwich, I don't think they're good enough. I predicted them to finish maybe bottom, or maybe 19th. I thought they'd really struggle, and I've been proved right. That Manchester City result was a strange one, but maybe in hindsight they'd have preferred to have maybe lost that and picked up points elsewhere. I don't know, but obviously it's a really good 3 points. But since then they've not picked up anything really besides the odd draw. I'm going to go for an Everton win. I'm going to go 3-1 to Everton, and that would be a good 3 points to Everton. They could go into the top half with that victory there. Final 3 o'clock game is Watford versus Burnley. So Watford are in 18th place after their first win of the season over Norwich. Burnley are in 10th place with 15 points picked up so far this season. Last 5 for both. Burnley, a 1-0 win over Everton, then 3 defeats in a row to Leicester, to Chelsea and to Sheffield United. Obviously 3 of the top 5, and then a 3-0 victory over West Ham. Last 5 for Watford. 1-0 draw with Spurs, a 0-0 draw with Bournemouth, a 2-0 defeat in the Carabao Cup to Everton, a 2-1 defeat to Chelsea, and then a 2-0 win over Norwich. This one could go either way, because Watford have picked up their first victory of the season, but Burnley could also win there because they're in good form. However, Burnley have picked up no wins so far this season away from home, and for that reason I'm going to go for a Watford victory. I'm going to go for Watford to get their second win this season, second win in a row. I'm going to go 2-1 to Watford in that one, and that could be the start of them climbing out of the relegation zone potentially. Next game for me is probably game of the weekend, and that is between Manchester City and Chelsea. So Chelsea are in 3rd, City are in 4th. 26 points for Chelsea, 25 points so far for Manchester City. And last 5 games for both sides are as follows. Chelsea have beaten Burnley 4-2, a 2-1 defeat to Manchester United in the Carabao Cup, a 2-1 victory over Watford, a 4-4 draw with Ajax, and a 2-0 victory over Palace. Last 5 for City, a 3-0 win over Aston Villa, 2 wins over Southampton, 3-1 and 2-1, one of those obviously in the Carabao Cup. A 1-1 draw with Atalanta, that was when Ederson come off and then Bravo was in goal and he got himself sent off, so Kyle Walker ended up in goal. And a 3-1 defeat to Liverpool. So that's their last defeat. They've already lost 3 games. I think they lost 4 games last season on the way to the title, and they only lost 2 games, I think, the season before when they finished on 100 points. That was to Manchester United and Liverpool, of course. So they've already lost 3. So I just don't see anyone catching Liverpool. I'm going to go for a City win. However, I'm going to go for City to win 2-0. I think City will have the better of Chelsea, particularly at home, and they'll be fired up after losing against Liverpool, and they might have Ederson back. I'm not sure what the score is on that one, but Ederson is a massive figure in that Manchester City side. On to Sunday, we only have one Super Sunday game, and that is Sheffield United taking on Manchester United. Sheffield United are the surprise package of this season. They are in 5th place with 17 points. Manchester United are in 7th place with 16 points so far this season. Last 5 games for both sides, Manchester United are as follows. A 3-1 win over Norwich, a 2-1 win over Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, a 1-0 defeat to Bournemouth, a 3-0 win over Partizan Belgrade, and a 3-1 win over Brighton. Sheffield United's last 5 games are as follows. A 0-0 draw with Watford, a 1-0 win over Arsenal, a 1-0 draw with West Ham, a 3-0 win over Burnley, and a 1-0 draw with Tottenham. I'm going to go for a shock here. This is my shock of the day, or shock of the weekend rather. I'm going to go for a Sheffield United win. I think Sheffield United are going really well. They don't concede many goals, only 9 conceded so far this season. Only Leicester have conceded less, and that is an absolutely fantastic stat. They don't score many goals either. They only scored 13, which is really low considering where they are in the table. However, I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Sheffield United. beating Manchester United, which would be an absolutely brilliant win for them. Could you imagine if they got Europe? It would be absolutely insane. Chris Wilder is doing such a fantastic job. Unfortunately, I don't see them sticking out there, and I think they'll finish in about mid-table to the lower half eventually, but they are doing absolutely brilliantly. I'm going to go for a win for Sheffield United. The final game is Aston Villa versus Newcastle. This is the Monday night football. Aston Villa are in 17th place with 11 points, 3 points above the relegation zone. Newcastle are in 13th place with 15 points after 2 wins on the bounce. Last 5 games for Villa: a 2-1 win over Brighton, a 3-0 defeat to Manchester City, a 2-1 win over Wolves, that was in the Carabao Cup, a 2-1 defeat to Liverpool and a 2-1 defeat to Wolves in the Premier League. Newcastle's last 5 games: a 1-0 win over Manchester United, a 1-0 defeat to Chelsea, a 1-0 draw with Wolves, a 3-2 win over West Ham, and a 2-1 win over Bournemouth. This one could go either way, but I'm going to go for a draw here because Newcastle are going okay. Now they've picked up 3 wins in the last 5 Premier League games. So Villa have done okay at home. The last time out, they nearly got a point against Liverpool, who are absolutely flying at the moment. So I'm going to go for them to cancel each other out and end up 0-0 in that one. Steve Bruce going back to his former club, Aston Villa, to place his successor, which of course was Dean Smith. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, of course, if you're new. Get your predictions into the comments as well. That would be really fantastic. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching until the end. My name is Mike, and I will see you soon.